no-nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
And yes, here we are again, another day committed to being your consumer advocate, all about helping you understand your buying decisions, making you more street smart here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, as we always do. We got a great lineup for you today. Jennie Restrepo in the house, Insured Title Agency, and also Jackson Shembekar as well, the Crypto Kid author. He's a published author and also a crypto expert. We're going to talk with him about all those different questions you may have about cryptocurrency on the first half of the show. And before we jump into this great content, I will let you know about a couple of our hot listings here in Tampa Bay. I've got a restaurant for sale in Dade City. It's a great opportunity at 14121 7th Street, Dade City. It's a restaurant, all of the furnishings included, all the real estate included, plenty of parking. You also have a one-bedroom, one-bath apartment. So you can have on-site management here at 14121 7th Street in Dade City. And this is a restaurant has been in place since 1990. And it's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs, business owners, relocate your restaurant in Dade City or maybe expand your franchise. And you can see all of our real estate listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
This is God's country.
All right, we got a motivational minute for today. This is Live Your Best Now, Live to Give. So here's a quote out of the Bible. It says, I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. That's out of Matthew 25:40. And live to give. So it's talking about being charitable. And it doesn't have to be some huge, big donation. It could be a small gestures of kindness. One of the things I do is I pack up food or different supplies. I'll carry that with me in my vehicle, hand it out to those, the folks that are homeless on the side of the road you see, from time to time here in Tampa Bay. So live to give. And the quote is, I tell you the truth, whatsoever you did for one of these least of my brothers, you did for me. Matthew 25:40. All right, let's jump into it. We got our friend Jackson Shembekar in the house, and we're going to talk about crypto today.
Absolutely, Brandon. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. All right, so there's been some stuff going on around Ape Coin. Tell me about it.
Yes, Ape Coin, it just released last week, actually, with the brand new Ape DAO. And to break that down, that's a decentralized autonomous organization. And this is a very, very big thing coming up for the Bored Ape Yacht Club. This is a club that was released just in 2021. It's a brand new NFT project. I'm not going to say brand new, actually. It's a very reputable project now at the point, but it's new in the sense that NFTs got hot in 2017, 2018 with CryptoPunks. And the Bored Ape Yacht Club took the NFT world by storm, absolutely killing it. Andreessen Horowitz is valuing this thing at $5 billion and is actually raising money as a VC firm. So this is huge, really big tech. And it's established itself as a blue chip in the community. And for the very first time, now we have a token governance protocol coming out saying that holders and participants in the community can now vote on things, can get access to certain things, and can really do a lot more with this community. So we can see further implementation building on this community. And what I find is very interesting is not only are people making a lot of money in this, is that this access is a private club where you get to actually interact with the community on a further scale. What we had previously was a Discord in which people who owned apes, and I've been over this before, where the only people that own apes are early adopters, rich people, and celebrities, are in this group chat. And essentially it's on Discord, so you have Steph Curry, you now have Madonna, you have Jimmy Fallon, you have people like me, and you have people who are nobodies, and all of them are the same because you own an ape. And that's the biggest thing. Everyone gets to come together and have access to that community. And now we have a coin that has a protocol. And that's very, very interesting because there's a voting mechanism that goes behind that. And I want to touch on this because every ape holder, every mutant ape holder, and every ape holder that had a Kennel Club dog to go with it, and I know that's a little complex, but bear with me. If you owned that NFT and were part of this club and you believed in it and you invested in it, whether that was at the initial price of $220, just $220, or $300,000 yesterday, you were able to collect ApeCoin. And this airdrop was massive, and I remember checking myself when I own 3 apes myself, and I checked and I thought maybe I'll get $3,000, maybe if I'm lucky I'll get $30,000, but it was mind-blowing. I got paid 10,094 ApeCoin per ape. I own 3 ape, and that initial price that I was checking was about $10 to $12. So you guys can do the math, but it was a lot of money.
That's awesome, man.
And I was very excited about that, but beyond that, I get to be a voting member in this community. And following up with that, just yesterday, the Bored Ape Yacht Club then launched a private merch drop. And you could only buy the merch with the Ape coin. So I thought this was very fascinating. It's coming full circle how a community can actually exist and operate on Web3. And it takes away the power of any third party that wants to govern and regulate this space.
So you're able to buy certain restaurants or food. Where, in other words, where's this accepted, or how can you spend the money?
So for now, the biggest place is going to be the Bored Ape Yacht Club merch store, which is actually very interesting. You can only buy Bored Ape Yacht Club merch, but I do think we're going to shift into different spaces where not only will this be accepted in the metaverse, it's been accepted that it's going to be accepted in the metaverse for land purchases, but also within this ape community, during places where you can gather, you will for sure be able to spend this currency in a wide variety of ways. People are talking about Ape Fest 2022 coming this summer, where the only thing will be accepted is ApeCoin, which is fascinating. Imagine going to something where you have people in real life and dollars will not be accepted, credit cards will not be accepted. The only thing that will be accepted is ApeCoin.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, this is definitely, wow, technology. I mean, there's so many things kind of coming together at one point, and it seems like the timing's right. I mean, over the last, you look at how this all evolved, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whichever coin you're talking about, it evolved from, well, why don't you tell me where it evolved from? I mean, from my take is, and of course, someone who's nowhere near as entrenched as you are, we're talking with Jackson Shembekar, by the way, the crypto kid. If you ever thought about crypto or what is it, how do I get into it, can I he can definitely help you. 813-917-1894, the show hotline. 813-917-1894 is the show hotline. Call or text crypto and we'll put you in touch with Jackson. But what kind of brought on this whole thing? I mean, is it because the government's constantly watering down the dollar, of course, inflation, mismanagement, printing? The Federal Reserve itself is just it's a criminal. It should be a criminal organization, but it's not. I mean, they're printing money. They're the best counterfeiters. I played a clip last week with Ron Paul, not Rand, but Ron, saying, yeah, they're just professional counterfeiters. They're printing money all the time.
Absolutely. And the history lesson that goes with this is that's what the Bitcoin inception was all about. This was brought on right after 2008, and everyone knows 2008 because that's when the big recession was, right? This was a response with a community, and it's one of the smartest communities in the world, I believe, and of course I'm biased, but I'm going to say that firmly, because you had a group of people come together and say, the existing system is not right, what the government is doing should not be allowed, we should be able to create our own currency and do it with the smartest people we know.
Yep.
And that, that brought on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That picked up in 2010. It was initially just a joke. It then spiraled into something that's an actual peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It then got picked up by Reddit. People started to use it as tips on Reddit. It was just for fun. It was like, let me send you Bitcoin. There was no value to it, but it was a tip. That's what happens. It was on Reddit, and it was a very big thing. Then we get an initial dollar value assigned because it was traded for 2 pizzas, right? That was 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. You can imagine now. I know that's $47 million, but that's what that initial sale was. It gave it an initial price point, and it took off from there. From there, it went to the libertarian community. Then it got involved in the Silk Road. Of course, you have black trade, but my constant argument is that pagers were used for illegal things, right?
Right.
So you shouldn't dismiss things just because they were used for illegal reasons, right?
Right.
And I mean, we could dive into the whole U.S. dollar being used for bad things, right?
Right.
So it got used for all these different things, and then in 2017, it got picked up for the very first time going mainstream.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing because the media picked it up, and while they said it was a joke and that it was going to crash, and it even did crash, it continues to come back to light every single year.
Yeah, man, that's what a great summarization. We're talking with Jackson Shembekar here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes, and I want to play a quick clip here before we get too deep into this, and then I want to ask you a question, about government intervention and potential for that. Here is a clip on printing money.
This bill we passed last week or 2 weeks ago in the dead of night that nobody wants to talk about, and clearly no senator is sitting out there going, "Hey, look what I did this." They're all ashamed of it.
Yeah.
But what is that going to do? You're a Milt Friedman guy, particularly monetary policy, and I 1,000% agree, dude. It's about monetary policy and about the flooding of dollars and the spending. Walk us through your analysis. Got about 2 minutes, and then we'll take a break and bring you back.
Yeah, well, as I said last time, no one pays attention to the real economy. The real economy right now is a white corpse laying on the table dead, right? We've shoved $30 trillion total in debt into the economy, fiscal stimulus, over the past years, $10 trillion in federal spending in the last 10 years, $9 trillion on the Federal Reserve balance sheet, $2 trillion in the last year or two of Fed funny money. So we've been shoving blood into that corpse in the form of M2 money supply. And if anybody looks at it, it's just a hockey stick, right? It's relatively flat and it just jumps up through the roof by the Fed. So the Fed's very late. Milton Friedman said back in the 60s when he won the Nobel Prize, there's a year lag on monetary policy. So his theory is about absolutely correct. We start printing, back in 2020, you can see the graph right there. It goes through the roof. And a year later, you get inflation. And the reason you don't have hyperinflation right now is because, as I said, the economy is a white corpse laying on the table. When you shove $10 trillion in federal spending and $2 trillion in money, that thing, if it doesn't create hyperinflation, you don't have an economy.
So Jackson, what's your initial response to, all the printing and the funny money?
For sure. I definitely agree for the most part. I do think that we are going to be far off from hyperinflation. Hyperinflation defined by Colombia as 50% in 1 month. So I don't think we're anywhere near that. You can see countries like Turkey where they're at 44% over 2021. We are nowhere near that. We're still the United States, right? But I do agree in the sense that fiscal policy is a mess. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely horrible. I mean, I'm still 18. I don't know everything about economics, but I do know a lot and more than majority. And so I think that fiscal policy, in the sense that we can just print stuff and we're adjusting these rates, and it's not monetary policy, right? It's the government particularly trying to shift the economy, but there's a lag. There's always going to be that delay, and they can't shift things in the right way, right? And so you have Jerome Powell out there with the Federal Reserve, and he's the money man. He tries to create what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And while he may be a smart guy, I think that that's up to the people to decide. It's not up to one person. Right? Yeah. And so when you get this government just filled up with monetary and fiscal policy, I think the monetary is the right way to go. But I think that either way, you're trying to alter the economy, and it's a self-governing body, and this free hand principle, the invisible hand principle, even though it's almost cliche, I do think it's the right way to go.
Yeah, so and the challenge is too what you have with the Federal Reserve is that there's nothing federal about it, right? But what the challenge is when we went off the gold standard back in, I believe it was 72, it opened this up to basically these cronies. So you've got the politicians, you've got the elites, you got the Jerome Powells, the Janet Yellens, the Greenspans. Those are all people in the clique. They're in that upper echelon clique. Your Chase Manhattans, your all the different folks that are at the top of that chain. What are they going to do? They're raising rates. They just started raising rates, but for the longest time they're reducing the rates. They're increasing the money supply. It's a tax on the poor. It's a tax on the middle class, hurting the middle class at record numbers. And then meanwhile, what did they do? They went out and took on so much corporate debt. So they were taking on corporate debt. So they're playing the game, and they're in charge of the game. So they're like the quarterback, and they're playing the game. But let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to ask you a little bit more about what happens if government decides to intervene and has some type of an intervention and says, hey, I'm going to start my own digital currency. What would happen with Bitcoin? How do you see that potentially playing out? And also, the fact that you can mine this crypto coin. You can mine these coins. I know you and James were talking about that prior to the show, so I want to ask you about that. On the flip side of this break, don't go anywhere. Back here on the Consumer Quarterback Show in just a quick minute. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Grant Cardone, and you've been listening to the phenomenal Brandon Rhymes, the Consumer Quarterback Show.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com.
Hey, Brandon Rhymes here for Cleaning Commandos here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Cleaning Commandos are hiring, and they're offering competitive wages, flexible hours, relaxed atmosphere, and a sign-on bonus. Reach out if you'd like a career with the Cleaning Commandos here in Tampa Bay. Info at cleaningcommandosllc.com or call 813-750-0550, 813-750-0550. Cleaning Commandos, Consumer Quarterback Show. Hey, Brandon Rhymes here. We are looking for real estate investors. We've got a new relationship bringing us a tremendous amount of off-market real estate investment opportunities. So text the word investor to our hotline, 813-750-0550. Off-market real estate investment opportunities. Text investor to 813-750-0550. Brandon Rhymes here, Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty, looking for real estate investors. Send us a text. Have you desired more income and more freedom in your life? Now is your time. Keller Williams Realty has just launched our own real estate school, and you can get licensed for free. I'm Brandon Rhymes, host of the Consumer Quarterback Show, owner of the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. And for the first 3 people who reach out, I will personally coach you. 813-917-1894. Call or text 813-917-1894. ConsumerQB.com. ConsumerQB.com.
You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at ConsumerQB.com.
All right, welcome back. Brandon Rhymes here. Consumer Quarterback Show, Platinum MVP team, always helping you win in your real estate deals. Part of the Keller Williams Realty Sports and Entertainment Division of the Keller Williams Realty, #1 real estate company in the world. And really excited about that. Sports and Entertainment Division, Commercial Division, so we can help you with vacant land, commercial real estate properties as well. And we got a hot property listing here at 9221 New York Avenue in Hudson. This is 30 acres. In Pasco County, prime land for development. Great opportunity here in beautiful Tampa Bay, 9221 New York Avenue in Hudson. You've got 30 acres, blank slate, perfect opportunity to come in and maybe put some townhomes, multifamily apartment buildings. It is zoned industrial as well, so lots of potential uses for that property. You can see all of our listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
All I've got's love for Love City.
All right, we got Jackson Shembekar in the house, and the Crypto Kid. He's a published author and definitely extensive knowledge, an expert in the crypto space. So it's kind of teasing before the break. What would happen if that's one thing that I've kind of thought in the back of my mind is, hey, what if the government says, hey, that's nice and all, you guys started this Bitcoin thing and you've got the board Ape Club, but what if the government comes in and says, hey, no, we're going to do our own digital currency? How would that play out?
Yeah, so I'm going to touch on a couple things here. What I want you to think back to is with Bitcoin, you have a big component that they have a leg up on everyone else in the sense that it is CEO free, right? So when you think of who created Bitcoin, the answer is Satoshi Nakamoto. And then you ask, well, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? And the answer is that nobody knows. It's a pseudonymous, basically, character because no one knows. It could be a single guy. It could be anyone. It could be a group. It could be some comp sci people in their basement, right? No one knows who exactly created it. You have a mathematician who is dead now with the name Satoshi Nakamoto. You have Hal Finney, the first receptor of Bitcoin. He's also dead now. You have Craig Wright. That's the alternative argument. And now that one is a little bit skeptical. I'm skeptical myself. Probably wouldn't believe it. He's responsible for the BSV network. But the big thing with Bitcoin is that it is anonymous, right? So Vitalik Buterin, he's the creator of Ethereum, and it's very public, right? And so a big doc on Ethereum is that you have this guy that represents the network and that has power involved, right? And so as distributed as it can get, he needs to relinquish all power for everything to be entirely decentralized, right? And so if the government were to create a currency, what I would say is that you have this massive community of Bitcoin maximalists and people who support Ethereum with decentralized applications, and they're going to say that Bitcoin and Ethereum, even if they're obsolete technology, they're going to say that it's far more efficient than the government controlling their funds, right? And so the flip side of that is that you have full adoption on the governmental side. But if everything is so public and so transparent versus the blockchain on Bitcoin and Ethereum right now that's pseudonymous, if everything's going to be public, I think, and I could be wrong, but I would think that the crypto community would stick with what they know. And my example on this is going to be Libra through Facebook, right? And it's meta now, but I'm going to say maybe a couple of years back now. It almost feels like forever. But Facebook released Libra, right? Facebook is a mammoth of a company.
Yep.
And they released Libra thinking that that's going to be a crypto that is going to dominate. It's going to be a Bitcoin killer. And I remember, I think I actually got asked about it by you maybe last year. And guess what? It was an entire flop, right? Because Facebook didn't know what these geniuses know that created stuff like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And coins flop every day. But the big thing is when you have companies leveraging their existing success into this new space, right? You can argue that that is vertical, what's the word? Vertical
integration?
There it is. Yes, vertical integration over horizontal integration, right?
Yep.
And that is something that these companies with this brand new space just aren't ready for.
Yeah.
And the argument then is that the government will be ready for it, right? And so if the government will be ready for it, I think it's going to take an immense amount of time, and it will be multiple years out. Because if they're going to do it, they're going to do it right. This is the U.S. government we're talking
You'd
about.
hope so. I don't know about this current administration.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think that you're going to have a vast amount of experts that will come in to really, really take this and try and run with it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the crypto community is going to be a very, very tough sell. But I think that if they're going to do it, we're multiple years out, and I don't think that the government's in a place to do that now.
Yeah.
Think about it. We could
I hope you're
barely
right.
get legislation through Congress right now.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, that we can't even get legislation on Web3, and it takes months and months to do that, I think we're years out of an actual currency.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys in there don't even know what crypto is. If
Exactly.
you really sat down with them and asked them and drilled them on it, maybe their staff understands it, and some of their subordinates. But I doubt they do. And because I've seen different articles and publications about, if there was a digital currency and you go to trade in your American dollars, they're saying, hey, we're moving you completely off of cash, and we're going to then, okay, so if you're a conservative or a patriot, you might get 70% credit, but if you're on the woke side, then you might get 130% credit. You know what I mean? So that's what's scary about a potential move for a government going to a digital currency.
Absolutely, and I think if they were to do so, right? Let's say we're in that space where we're a couple of years out, and they have all the protocols in place, and they have all the code, all the smart contracts are set, right? I think it's going to be a very, very slow shift, if at all, right? Let's say the community gets behind it and everything. You have to think about the actual people that accept and adopt Bitcoin and Ethereum to the full scale right now as it is, right?
Right.
So we are several years out of any mainstream adoption in terms of that. Do I think we're going to get there? Absolutely.
What percent do you think we are right now? Sorry to interject, but through
Yes.
330 or whatever million Americans, what percent are like into Bitcoin?
So
or
it's actually interesting. If you asked me this question maybe 3-4 years ago, right? And we were at the very 1% of the bell curve, right?
Yep.
But we're actually starting to get to that rising action of the bell curve. We're on that early adopter stage still, I would believe. Other people would argue early majority. I'm going to stay firm with that early adopter because I think we're in that 13 to maybe 20th percentile right now, right? And I want you to visualize a bell curve when you think about that.
Right.
Others would argue that we're at the 30 to 45. And honestly, both are fine. Both are acceptable arguments, right? But I do think we're certainly on the first half, right? And there's going to be the laggards that fall behind, right? And that's with anything, right? Think about just how many people still don't even accept credit cards, right? They think that all forms of debt are bad, right? Mm-hmm. Versus you could, if you utilize it right, you can get percents back and you can get all your travel and hotels free, right? So there's always going to be that skepticism behind it. But I think that we are still in that early majority or early adopter phase. That'd be my opinion. Yeah,
it's interesting. If you just joined us, we're talking with Jackson Shembekar here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. He's an author. His book is The Crypto Kid. And Jackson, we've got about a minute and a half left or so. How do you want folks to connect with you, and where can they get your book?
My book is going to be any bookstore nationwide, and you can find it on Amazon. It's The Crypto Kid, and the best way to get in contact with me is at Jackson Shembekar on Instagram. Last name is Shembekar.
Yep, Jackson Shembekar. And final thought too, Gary V. You got Gary V. Other celebrities, they're kind of getting in, and talk to me about the celebrity side and how they can influence.
Absolutely. Celebrity influence is huge. I think that there's kind of two sides to this. You have the celebrities that actually know what they're doing, and that's not necessarily them, but it's their publicists, their people behind them, right? But there are good projects out there like VFriends and Gary V. And I'm going to say that lightly because some people are going to say that Gary V is very, very on the fence himself on the ethical side of things. But I think regardless of what he's doing, he's innovating in the space, which is the biggest thing, right? The smart contracts have utility. He is creating things. I think that's good. However, then you have other people in the space, and I'm not going to call names, but you have people that know nothing, and they're buying these NFTs, and they're doing different things because other people are telling them to. And they know nothing about the innovation, and it's all about the hype, and they see the quick cash grabs.
Right.
And I think that's where this community can fall short. But I think that the influence is certainly something good because the big thing that NFT is a household name now, not necessarily name, but word. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
People recognize NFT. They might not know non-fungible token. They may not know anything about it.
Yeah.
But people know NFT now. They do. And so I think that's a very big thing.
And we had a real estate deal close here in Tampa that was, kind of a big, in my opinion, it was a PR play, PR stunt type of deal. But yeah, it closed in South Tampa, and
Absolutely.
It was a non-fungible token.
You got it.
And and there's ways around it too. We talked to Jenny, who's coming up as well, about sometimes these companies, they'll sell the LLCs and then the beneficial rights, ownership rights of the LLC to escape paying taxes and other things in some cases. Jackson, always a pleasure, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. All right, when we come back, we got Jennie Restrepo in the house, Insured Title Agency, coming up here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Follow us online. We'd love to connect with you at Brandon Rhymes 1 on Instagram, Twitter, and Getter, and our YouTube channel, Brandon Rhymes Realty. We'll be right back.
This is Chris Voss, former FBI lead hostage negotiator. and owner of the Black Swan Group, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com.
Johnny, can you hear me? Hi, Jenny. I just need you right up on that mic whenever it's your turn.
Okay, is that better?
Can you hear yourself okay?
I can hear myself okay. How's that? Yeah, that's better.
Yep, don't be afraid of being too loud. I can control that on this end. I just need you nice and strong there.
Oh, don't threaten me with a good time. I'm going to be loud.
Ready to go.
All right.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
And we're back. Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show. We like to feature our real estate listings, help our sellers profit more and sell faster here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. I got a lot of vacant land for sale, by the way. If anybody's out there looking to build, I've got commercial and residential vacant land parcels available from one-off lots to acreage. So reach out. We'd love to talk to you if you're looking for land. One of the properties is 207 East Lutz Lake Fern Road right here in Tampa Bay. You can build your dream home, maybe a couple units on 207 East Lutz Lake Fern Road right here in Tampa Bay, that is. And we've got about a dozen other properties as well. So vacant land, lots of land available. 12631 Hobson Simmons Road is another property that we've got in Lithia, Florida. This in Lithia. It's in the southern area of Hillsborough County. We got 1324 Hicks Road, another one in Spring Hill. So lots of opportunities. Reach out to the hotline, 813-917-1894. Call or text the hotline. We'd love to talk to you, 813-917-1894. All right, we got Jennie Restrepo in the house, Insured Title Agency, and welcome back in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
My pleasure. Good to see you. I always enjoy our conversations, and we talk about a lot of things from insurance, title insurance side to for sale by owner properties to events that we're looking to do. We talked about I want to funnel off of what Jackson was talking about, that NFT. So we had that deal we talked about a few weeks back, but interesting to see. I mean, Jackson is a wealth of knowledge around all things digital currency, and he talked about NFT, and that reminded me of our conversation about that property that was sold in South Tampa with the NFT and kind of. I think it was just mainly a play on PR to get some press out there.
Well, I don't know the motivation behind that transaction, but I will say it's all happening. Mm-hmm. The future is coming, whether we want to meet it or not. And so obviously young people like Jackson are doing their research and they are making a business about it. But I think the great thing about Jackson is he's willing to share everything he knows. Yeah. And Insured Title Agency is actually helping to sponsor an event that they're having at Stageworks. So just to give a little plug to that, since he just
Yeah,
talked.
that's cool. I was wondering more about that.
Yes, the Crypto Kid is going to be giving a presentation, an eye-opener about the financial future. So he's going to talk about crypto. He's going to talk about NFTs. I love that he's super open. And in real estate, obviously, we have to meet the need of the consumer. So if consumers are wanting to move towards using crypto for real estate transactions, then we all better just figure that out.
Right.
So I'm going to go to the event so I can learn a little bit more about it, because it's a little bit over my head.
Yeah.
I'm not a math person, and so I'm excited. It's going to be April 16th at Stageworks. 2 limited engagements, so you got to get your tickets ahead of time. It's going to be at 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. So you can go to stageworkstheater.org to get your tickets. There's even VIP tickets where you can meet Jackson. And if you're interested in it at all, come and hear from someone who actually wrote a book about it. Why not?
Yep. That's right.
Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not happening. And so I think that, yes, as things change, as the market changes, as new currencies are developed, we can either figure it out or be left on the outside is kind of what I think about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, things change. Things, there's always this constant evolution, that it's like a the pendulum swinging. You got the pendulum swinging. It happens with social issues, and it happens with different of course we're seeing it in money and currency now. So the more that you can be embracing and ahead of the curve and try to have an open mind, definitely that's something that and to make an informed decision. That's the thing too. If you're looking at investing, they always talk about protecting your downside, right? I know in Tony Robbins' book he talked about asymmetrical risk reward. You want to make sure you have so much more upside and then a lot less. You're covering your downside. That's what a lot of the great investors look at. So for anything that you're looking at, make sure you understand it. You have a plan and an exit strategy.
I mean, it's just like buying a house. Of course, buying a house is an investment. You're putting a lot of money into something. You don't just show up at the door of the seller and say, here's all my money. Thank you for your keys.
Right.
You do an inspection. You do a title search. You do a lien search. You go through the due process to ensure that the money that you're putting into this home is a good investment for you.
Yeah.
So you should regard the rest of your money in the same cautious way. Yep. And don't just throw money at a this is my personal advice, not company affiliate advice, but don't throw your money at something that you don't understand. If you want to get into it, do your research. And so this would be an opportunity.
Well, that's good advice. I mean, you can't go wrong with doing research, getting the perspectives. That's another one of my favorite philosophies from Tony is get perspectives, find new voices, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at whatever type of endeavor, it never hurts to find, especially I'm going to see Dennis Prager tonight. He's speaking at a local establishment here, Davidoff Cigar. But someone like Dennis Prager, he's been around for years. He's got gray hair. I mean, he's a very wise man. He's on this station, and so when you get perspective from people like that, and then you listen to somebody on the complete opposite side in terms of age, someone that we just had on like Jackson, super smart younger guy, but you're gathering information, you're doing your research, you're getting perspectives from different people from different backgrounds, and I think that's a big part of making a decision. I want to bring it back to the real estate side here. Yes. One of the questions I get a lot as a top listing agent here in Tampa Bay, Jenny, is who pays the closing cost? How do you answer the closing cost, right?
Oh, that's a fun question.
Yeah.
There is no one answer to who pays. First of all, I always say, what does the contract say?
Right.
Because in the state of Florida, we have a standard real estate contract. However, there's a section where you can say, and this? So what does the contract say? Because the buyer can ask for a contribution of closing costs from the seller. The seller can say, I'll pay all of it. Okay, so the first reference point to who pays is what does the contract say? Let's say that the contract is a standard contract. Buyer has not asked for concessions. Seller has not granted them. There's a buyer side and then there's a seller side.
That's it.
And closing costs apply every time. There is not a zero closing cost option. You can go with a zero down payment option. So for example, if you're a veteran, you're getting a VA loan, that's a $0 down. That's your down payment.
Yep.
Okay, so your down payment is different than your closing costs.
Right.
Buyers have closing costs, sellers have closing costs. What are the typical things that land on each side?
Right.
Okay, so if there's a lender, then there's going to be lender closing costs. So there's a settlement fee that goes to the title company. That's a standard thing that every title company is going to charge. It does vary, so you might want to get a quote from your title company as to how much that's going to be. I've seen some of them put $800, $900, $1,000 on the settlement. That's what the title company is collecting for their services. And so make sure you're looking at your closing disclosure to see what is that number. That's not a regulated amount. Now, there's other things that are regulated, like dock stamps on the deed.
Right.
Okay, that's what the municipality charges. So Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, that's what the municipality charges. There's no upcharge. No title company or settlement agency can add even 1 penny to that. So that's a non-negotiable. It has to be paid. Someone has to pay it.
Because what are they doing for that dock stamp? Is that where they're recording it, or what are you doing with that?
It's what the municipality charges to transfer the deed recording from Brandon Rhymes to Jennie Restrepo.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
And the funny thing is, so it's called a dock stamp because it actually used to be a stamp. I've seen them. So it was like a postage stamp, but it said documentary stamp.
Yeah.
Because before there were credit cards or e-recording or wires or things like that, you would actually purchase the documentary stamp because you had to go to the courthouse
right, exactly.
in person with a piece of paper and record it with an actual person and have a conversation and then like purchase your documentary stamps.
Yeah, it's kind of like those seals you see on the old movies where they're coming over on a ship or something and they got the seal and then they put the wet
before they put the wax and stamped it. Yes, but like early notary systems, of course, like as things evolve, but. Yeah, so documentary stamps, doc stamps on the deed, that's typically on the seller side. The seller is going to pay any outstanding property taxes due for the current year. So this year is 2022. Taxes are paid in arrears, meaning we pay at the end of the year.
Right.
So the current owner hasn't paid any taxes, property taxes for 2022 yet. But we're already here into March. So what happens there? Well, whatever the day of closing is, the seller will pay a prorated amount of the taxes starting January 1 to day of closing.
Right.
The title company will figure out that proration based on a daily rate, and then they hold that money back from the sellers out of their proceeds because we're not on the honor system anymore. So whatever the seller owes is collected at closing and goes to the appropriate either escrows for the buyer or wherever that needs to go so that when the tax bill is due typically in November of 2022 for the whole year, those monies will have been collected. So it's not like you're buying a house and then at the end of the year, Hillsborough County says, hey, former seller, can we go ahead and get that $3,000 from you? And they're like, I left the country.
Yeah.
So that's why you want to use a reputable title company like Insured Title Agency because all of these things are done. Yep. If something is outstanding, it is collected from the seller's proceeds and held on behalf of the buyer or paid.
Yeah, and you have. I had a question one time. It was this, older lady. She was saying, "Well, I see that it says this amount in January or November, December, January, and February. You know how it shows on your statement." And she said, "Do I have to pay all those different times?" And so, can you explain that? Like, so if it's paid in November, you get a little bit of a credit, or you're paying it. I don't know if the credit's the right word, but it's a lower amount than if you waited till March to pay it.
So the tax collector will offer that to homeowners on their property tax bill. Pay it by this date, it's this amount. Pay it by this date, it's this amount. Well, what if you're in the process of selling your house, but you want to get that mostly discounted rate? Mm-hmm. I'm not exactly, like it's usually sometime in November, sometime in December. So I did have a situation where my seller said, well, I'm just going to pay it. Here's what can happen. Okay, so the seller can pay it because they want that lower amount. And then if they get a receipt from the tax collector for the county saying it's paid, then no additional monies will be collected. They may actually get a credit back because if you pay November 21st but you sell on December 1st, the seller didn't actually owe the entire year. So they overpaid essentially. Sure. The seller would get a credit back.
Yeah.
But if there's a paperwork mix up in the in-between,
Right.
then at closing, the seller may still have those funds held back for the taxes
Right.
until there's a confirmation that they were paid, or they'll get paid in twice, and then the tax collector will issue back an overage, like credit check, back to the seller who overpaid.
Perfect. All right, good stuff. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the threats and scams and issues and fraud out there. Kind of change direction here. We're going a little bit technical there with the closings and the statement and the cost. But when we come back, I want to talk about some of the threats out there and investors and different scams to look out for. Jenny is a rep with Insured Title Agency. They see a lot of deals. They're doing a lot of deals throughout Tampa Bay and beyond. So I want to talk about that and maybe give you some consumer tips to think about here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
This is Work Done, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com.
Ian Beckles here with my man Brandon Rhymes, a.k.a. the Real Estate Quarterback. Brandon, what's happening with the market?
Thanks, Ian. Any of our listeners out there, we'll offer you a 2% listing for the first 3 callers that reach out to the hotline, 813-917-1894. Call or text the hotline, 813-917-1894. Also, a great opportunity for folks out there looking for a part-time gig, maybe a side hustle, is Keller Williams Real Estate School, powered by Kaplan. Reach out if you'd like more information on how we have a free real estate school for you, online class, get licensed, and start referring business in, or maybe make a new career. 813-917-1894, consumerqb.com for our syndicated radio and TV show on 80 outlets worldwide, consumerqb.com, or our real estate website at platinummvpteam.kw.com. That's platinummvpteam.kw.com. And please follow us online at Brandon Rhymes 1 on Instagram, Twitter, Getter, and check out our YouTube channel, Brandon Rhymes Realty. Make it a great day.
My name is James DeJerome, and I produce the Consumer Quarterback Show for Brandon Rhymes. The Consumer Quarterback Show is a team, a group of like-minded professionals who partner together to provide our audience sound advice, knowledge, and information to make them wiser consumers. We work with all types of business owners and aggressively promote our local economy. We're currently conducting interviews for our expert contributors. If you own a business or know someone who would benefit from the exposure our show provides, please contact us at 813-750-0550 or online at consumerqb.com.
You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
And we're back. Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty, always helping you win in your real estate deals, buying, selling, or investing. Of course, we would love to talk to you. We're a top 1% ranked real estate team here in Tampa Bay. Out of 25,000 realtors in Tampa Bay, we're in the top 1%. So we'd love to talk to you. Reach out to the hotline, 813-917-1894. Just call or text the hotline, 813-917-1894, and we greatly appreciate all those that do. We get calls in every week and text messages supporting our 80 different categories of consumer advocate expert contributors here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. We greatly appreciate that. And we have Jennie Restrepo in studio here, Insured Title Agency, online at insured-title.com. Got it. All right, so Jenny, let's talk a little bit about these open permits, lien searches, fraudulent activities. You guys are doing a lot of transactions out there.
Yes.
What are you seeing on that side?
Okay, so here's something that has been hitting our office in a couple of different ways, either with transactions that we're closing or with agents who regularly work with us but have done transactions elsewhere in the state where they represent the buy side, so it went to a different title company. Okay. Permits are something that attaches to the property. What is a permit? If you are going to put a new roof on your house, if you're going to put in a pool, install a shed, anything like that, you would be pulling a permit, or your contractor would. In your name, in the name of your property. So for example, you're getting a new roof put on. Your roofing contractor, which you should always use a reputable contractor, your roofing contractor should go to wherever, city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, whatever it is, wherever the property is located, would be the municipality, and pull a permit. Okay, you can do this online. I'm saying you would pull it. You don't have to go in person. Everything can be done online. But the roofing contractor would pull the permit. Then the roofing contractor would put the roof on. Then the roof would be inspected that it was done correctly and you're happy with the job and the roofer has been paid. Now the roofer goes and closes the permit. So it's supposed to be a full cycle service.
Mm-hmm.
You open the permit to get the permission to do the work. The work is done. Contractor, homeowner satisfied. The permit is closed. Best possible scenario, that's exactly what happens. The other thing of what happens is that a permit is pulled, so it's open, and then never closed.
Right, they forget.
They forget, the company goes out of business, you have a disagreement over a payment, and so that open permit could turn into what, Brandon, you were mentioning when we were on the break, is a contractor's lien or a mechanic's lien.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're in a dispute with the contractor and they want the money and you don't want to pay it, and they basically take the permit and the quote and the work that was agreed upon and they lay that as a lien on your property. So that would come up on a lien search.
That must be paid at any transfer, whether you're refinancing or purchasing,
If
someone's selling it.
If it's been adjudicated by a judge and the money was granted to the contractor and you still haven't paid it, 100% that's going to have to get paid.
Right.
If it's still being prosecuted, it may delay the closing if you still don't agree because it's sitting out there as a lien that either must be satisfied or a court could rule that the contractor is wrong and erase that lien, but that's not something that the title company could do or your real estate agent could do, or obviously as the homeowner is not going to do, because if they agreed, they wouldn't be in court over it.
Yeah.
So if you're actively being sued or suing someone regarding work done, it's probably not the best time to sell your property because that is going to have to be remedied at one way or the other at closing, because a lien is something that attaches to the property.
Yeah.
But an open permit, and when you read the contract, it says, okay, the insured title agency is going to do the title search, they're going to do the lien search, and then if anything comes up on that, obviously it's going to be remedied at closing, and all parties are going to be made aware of whatever monies are due, who's paying what, all that will be sorted.
Mm-hmm.
But if you read the contract regarding open permits, the title company is actually not obligated to search open permits. And many title companies do not, because while it could be a simple issue, it can be a hassle. And lenders will allow a loan to close even if there are open permits as long as everybody signs an acknowledgement. But here's what can happen. So if you're buying a property and no one does a lien search and you, Brandon, buy it, and this happened with a transaction we were closing, the guy that owned it, it was an investment property for him. He was selling it. And we did a permit search, and there was a permit that was still open for an AC system that was installed 16 years ago.
Wow.
And the city of St. Petersburg, sometimes they'll just administratively close it. Like, how can we know that the work was done properly 16 years ago, regardless if this company is in business or what? Like, what would be the point of inspecting it now? It's been there for 16 years.
Right.
But it did create a headache and delay the closing for this seller.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, but I didn't pull this permit. This is 16 years ago. And this property has transferred ownership at least 2 or 3 times in between before I purchased it.
Right.
And I said, well, sorry, but we're very thorough. At Insured Title Agency, we're very thorough.
Yep.
And the reason why is because until this stops, it continues to be a problem that attaches to this property on and on and on and on and on. And so they were able to remedy, close it. Now that's done forever. Hassle for seller, sorry, but buyer is not having to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so if you are a buyer and you're in the process of buying, you need to confirm that is the title company pulling permits? And if they're not, your agent can help you with that. It's all public information. You simply go to the building department for whatever, if you're in the county or the city, so you need to know what municipality.
Right.
And you just do a search.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that's open, the seller, the language of the contract says that the seller reasonably must assist in closing it.
Yeah, and there's multiple boxes too. Before closing, there's different boxes. If I'm talking about the right section, they're before closing or the buyer's responsible after closing. Like there's different boxes on.
Not in the open permit section.
It's
kind of vague.
I'm trying to remember what that section is. There's a section on the contract that you can check for that box. Anyways, we got about a minute left. Final thoughts. Fraud. At one point, I said something about investors. Is there any difference between working with investors or primary residents? I know sometimes investors want to try to buy discounted properties. That's where you might find some troubles as well if you're buying it at the courthouse.
If you're buying at auction, off market, through an investor, if it's owned by an LLC, just here's my final thought. Caveat emptor, which means buyer beware. The state of Florida puts the onus of doing your due diligence on the buyer. So make an educated decision if that's the right fit for you. And if you're not sure, call someone like Brandon Rhymes, who's a very experienced agent in Tampa Bay, and ask for his assistance. Because if there's a problem, you have now purchased that problem, and there's really not a remedy for you. And permit issues are not a title claim because they don't attach to title.
Yep. We've seen that. We've talked about that. We also talked about the Matt Cox gentleman that was on American Greed, and you got to be real careful out there. Get a title monitor, check your title periodically. And Jenny, thanks so much. Always a pleasure. And Jackson Shembekar was on the show, the Crypto Kid as well. Another great show. We want you to please go out there and consider committing a random act of kindness. Do something kind for one another. Be a force for good in the community. And we'll see you next time right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Follow us on social at Brandon Rhymes1 on Instagram, Twitter, and Getter, and YouTube channel Brandon Rhymes Realty. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Call Brandon Rhymes at 813-917-1894. That's 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show.